Hello, everyone. Welcome to the University of Guelph's Out of Province webinar. My name is Lauren Dietrich, and I'm the Acting Liaison Officer, National and Transfer Recruitment here at the University of Guelph. I'm so excited to be here with all of you today and to be sharing a little bit about the place that I'll call my second home, the UFG. Before we get started, I do want to acknowledge that the University of Guelph resides on the lands of the Between the Lakes Treaty Number 3, the territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit. This land is part of the Dish with One Spoon, a covenant between Indigenous nations live peaceably on the territories of the Great Lakes region. We recognize that this gathering place is home to many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples, and by recognizing them, it reminds us of our responsibility to the lands where we learn, live, and work. I hope that you all are doing well and staying healthy during this very difficult time. And I just want to let you all know that we are here to support you. And I am definitely looking forward to the day where we can be back on campus together and to be watching all the guide dog puppies in training, like Trip, who's pictured here on screen now. To get started, I graduated from the Bachelor of Arts degree, majoring in criminal justice and public policy with a minor in family and child studies. And throughout my time at the U of G, I played on a few different intramural teams, I balanced 2 part-time jobs, and I played competitive hardball for the city of Guelph. And I love the U of G so much that I really haven't left since. Here's our agenda for today. I will be touching on what makes the UFG unique, the city of Guelph, admission and finances, one of my favorite topics, the food on campus, and how to get involved. So whether this is athletics, clubs, we'll be touching on that as well. I'm also so happy to say that we do have a UFG alumni, Solveig here, who is an out of province herself, originally from British Columbia. So welcome, Solveig.
Hi.
Thanks so much for joining. We really appreciate your time today. Can you share just a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Solveig Hansen. I graduated from the University of Guelph in 2019, so last spring. And I graduated from the Bachelor of Arts and Sciences program, and I specialized in neuroscience, criminal justice, and public policy. I'm originally from Vancouver Island, British Columbia, so I moved a long way to come to Guelph. And I am now doing my master's degree at Concordia University, and I'm studying history of medicine.
That's great. Thanks, Solveig. Solveig will be jumping in throughout the presentation here. So I would also like to let you know that my colleague Jessie is behind the scenes and she is monitoring the Q&A. So if you have any questions throughout this presentation, she'll be there to answer your question. So feel free to use the Q&A. I would first like to spend some time highlighting some very unique features of the University of Guelph and understanding that many of you may not get to visit our campus in person, like Solveig will chat a little bit later about how she wasn't able to visit. I will be sharing pictures of campus and giving you a better idea of where you will be living, learning, and exploring. The University of Guelph is a mid-sized university with just under 27,000 undergraduate students. And just a few days ago, Maclean's magazine published their 2020 rankings. And the UFG is the top comprehensive university in Canada for overall student satisfaction. So this means that our university is known and recognized for its diversity in program offerings, both at the graduate and the undergraduate levels. And that there's an extensive amount of research and teaching going on here right on campus. We are ranked #1 in 6 of the overall categories. So this includes course instructors, student life staff, administrative staff, academic advising staff, extracurricular activities, and residence living. As the rankings show, the UFG, we truly are here to improve life of not only our students, but local and international communities. Last year, we received over $146 million in annual research funding. This is more than any other school in Canada that is not a medical school. And we are committed to not only feeding your mind through academics, but your stomach, as we are ranked as having the best campus food in all of Canada over the last 10 years. Additionally, over 90% of our graduates will find employment shortly after graduation. I am included in this 90% as I originally pursued a career as a child and youth counselor working with young offenders. I then shortly recognized my love for counseling and advising and returned to my roots in my home away from home, the UFG. Solveig, could you speak to your experience about how you found out about the University of Guelph and maybe what resources you access to learn more about our institution as you have never toured campus before accepting your offer?
Yeah, so I was coming from a really long way away, and I had applied to lots of universities across Canada. So I wasn't able to come and tour some of them like I know some out-of-province students do. I originally found out about the University of Guelph because I knew that I didn't want to just pursue a degree in the sciences or just pursue one in the arts. And I didn't really know how to go about it. So I think I literally Googled, like, what do you do if you don't want to choose?
It's a great resource.
Yeah. And the Bachelor of Arts and Sciences program at UG was the first one that popped up. So I was already really excited about that program. And I spent a lot of time looking at the Guelph website, and I ended up finding the email of the program advisor for the Bachelor of Arts and Sciences, and I sent them an email. And Jerome, who was the advisor at the time, he was kind enough to offer to speak with me over the phone about what Guelph was like and what the program would be like, and what I could expect moving across the country. And that's something that all of the program advisors are always happy to do. So if you're interested in doing that, you can find their emails online through the program websites. And I think that was one of the things that like really solidified my interest in Guelph, just because of how like warm and welcoming he was, and how willing he was to help me like figure out whether Guelph would be the right fit for me. Other than that, the other biggest thing that helped me learn about Guelph, because I actually didn't have a Guelph representative come to my school, I went to a pretty small high school, is that I found the student association for my program on Instagram, and they had a whole bunch of posts of different students and what they were doing. They were talking about the events that they were planning for the upcoming year. And I messaged them on Instagram, and I got to talk to a few current students before I actually went to the University of Guelph. So just getting to have that like personal connection with somebody really helped me figure out that Guelph would be the right place for me.
Yeah, that's a really great. And I think it speaks to the fact that, especially this year, with tours being suspended for the meantime, just recognizing a lot of out-of-province students, a lot of you tuning in today, you might not be able to tour campus. So we have these resources available to you, so you can learn a little bit more about the University of Guelph. And also, I think it's very important to consider the city that you're going to be living in when you're moving on to post-secondary. So especially as a lot of you are traveling hundreds, and in Solvay's experience, thousands of kilometers away from home. And I can assure you that at the University of Guelph, you'll be welcomed with open arms, not only to the UFG, but to the city of Guelph. So we are located in Guelph, Ontario. So just for reference, we're about a 45-minute drive west of Toronto. And Toronto is where you will find Pearson International Airport, which I'm sure Solvay has visited a few times, flying back home to BC and then back to UFG. And some of my favorite sights and sounds are listed here on screen right now in the city of Guelph. So this includes everything from getting chocolate peanut butter ice cream at the Light Pink Boathouse overlooking the Speed River, or also another favorite of mine is heading to Market Fresh, which is a family-owned shop here in downtown Guelph, and I would get a panini or just get my groceries done there for the week. And there is a reason why the city of Guelph is named one of the best places to live in Canada. And we're known as a friendly city. We have one of the lowest unemployment and lowest crime rates in all of Canada. We were also named one of the best cities to buy real estate in just earlier this year. Solvay, what were some of your favorite things to do here in the city of Guelph, and what was your overall experience like in moving to Guelph?
Yeah, when I moved to Guelph, I was really excited and also very nervous because I was 17 and I'd never lived away from Vancouver Island. And my experience really was that Guelph is such a friendly city. Like the people on and off campus are always happy to talk to students and to make friends with you and to tell you about things to do in Guelph. I really love downtown Guelph. I lived there for a couple of years after I moved off campus after my first year. And one of my favorite places downtown you actually have in the picture in the slideshow here is the Bookshelf, which is sort of an amalgamation between a bookstore, a restaurant, a movie theater, and a bar. So you can go there and watch like slam poetry and grab a bite to eat and see an indie film, and it's just a wonderful place to hang out. But the downtown itself has like so many lovely places. It's all old brick buildings and cute little cafes to study in. my other favorite place is on campus, which is the Arboretum, and it's this big research forest. And it's a great place because it's so close to all the classes and residences and everything. To go and have a walk in the woods in between classes is such a lovely thing.
It's beautiful. It's over 400 acres. Actually, a friend of mine is getting married there in a few weeks. So that's kind of exciting too. In terms of the city of Guelph and how far we are away from like downtown from the university campus, it's maybe only a 15-minute walk. So we're pretty close. And as Solveig mentioned, there's a lot of really nice cafes and restaurants, and but you're still getting that warm and friendly atmosphere in our city and on campus. So another very important piece that we all need to consider is admissions. So in terms of admission, you can find all of our admission information at admission.uoguelph.ca. And from our landing page, select the Admission Information tab on the black banner at the top of the screen. Under Canadian high school students, choose the Ontario Admission Requirements Chart link to launch your digital viewbook on pages 74 and 75. And this chart is where you will find our degree programs, majors, estimated cutoff ranges, and some important notes. And underneath the Ontario Admission Requirements Chart, choose a National Course Equivalency Chart link to launch our digital viewbook on page 76. And here you'll find specific subject requirements categorized by province. So for example, as a student in British Columbia, we're looking for 5 academic grade 12 courses, including specific subjects. So for the English requirement, we are looking for English Studies 12 or English 12. And at the University of Guelph, we are committed to an accessible university education, as we believe that every student who is academically qualified to attend university should be able to, regardless of financial obstacles. This is why we provide you with lots of support and assistance. This includes scholarships and bursaries, employment opportunities, loans, and more. Last year, we were awarded over $23 million in merit and needs-based scholarships and bursaries. Scholarships are based on your academic average, and bursaries are given to those students who are in need of financial assistance. We do a number of other things to help you out financially. Firstly, we operate on a semesterly payment system. So you pay for each semester as it comes, rather than one lump sum for the entire year. We also have over 4,000 on-campus jobs, a great way to make some extra cash on the side in between your classes. Our biggest employer on campus is through athletics. So you could maybe be working at the front desk or as a lifeguard or even as a dance instructor. Solveig, I know that you were a tour guide, a social media ambassador, and had several other jobs while you were here at the UFG. Can you share your experience of how you found out about these positions and what it was like to work on campus?
Sure. I held lots of jobs while I was living in Guelph, both on and off campus. The ones that I had on campus, you already mentioned, I was a tour guide, so I would tour prospective students around the campus, and also a social media ambassador, which essentially meant that I was paid to take nice photos of campus or things I was doing in the lab and post them on Instagram and Twitter. These jobs I found out about because I started in my first and second year volunteering as a University of Guelph ambassador. So I was recruited to work on the big campus events like Fall Preview Day, where students from all over Ontario and outside of Ontario would come to see the campus and learn about what the University of Guelph offered. And there were hundreds of us dressed in yellow t-shirts touring families around. And once you volunteer at least once as a University of Guelph ambassador, then you can apply to be hired as a tour guide on campus. So instead of just touring families around 1 day or 2 days out of the year, you do it on a week-by-week basis. And it's a paid position, and that was so much fun. And that's also how I ended up being a social media ambassador. The other jobs that I held while I was at the university, one of the more interesting ones was I worked as a research assistant in the research park, which is just down the road from the university. And I heard about that job through a friend, through one of my lab mates in my first year. And I ended up getting to work in the agricultural sector. So I did some work in a lab. I talked to lots of farmers about what they did in their careers. And that was a really fun position. And I also worked as a waitress at several different places off campus. And most of these jobs were ones that I learned about either through friends on campus or through a website called The Canon, which is kind of like Kijiji, but specifically for University of Guelph students. And that's where you can find out about jobs or to buy used textbooks or find roommates in Guelph. It's a really great website. I suggest checking it out.
Yeah, that's an awesome resource. I definitely use the Canon quite a few times, primarily for textbooks for my upper years. But I think just, yeah, your point, Sarah, comes back to the community that we have at the UFG and the fact that even one job can lead to another job. And there's so much network building. And you not only have these opportunities on campus, but in the city of Guelph. Our population is about 130,000 people in the city of Guelph. So lots of opportunities to test out different things, things that you may like, and then things that you may find out later on that you're not so much into. So just awesome opportunities that are available to you there. And if any of you are interested in learning more about admissions and finances and how to get involved, I do recommend visiting admission.uoguelph.ca/events to book a one-on-one meeting with me or to register for an upcoming webinar, as I am hosting a variety of different region-specific webinars in the coming weeks. And Solveig mentioned that as a tour guide and just helping out with admissions, we had something called Fall Preview Day, which was an event that we held on campus every year. This year it is virtual, which is actually might be positive for all of you who are tuning in who may not have been able to visit campus during Fall Preview Day on campus this year. So just having it virtual to you. This year it's on November 8th. It's a Sunday. So I definitely recommend that you visit our events website to check that out, and you can find out there how to register for that. And one very important piece that we continue to talk about here is the amount of support that we offer. So in terms of academic support in the library, we have supported learning groups. These are study groups run by upper year students. They're created for the historically challenging classes and the courses. So on the 3rd floor of the library, there's a math, stats, and physics resource center, and there's staff there to help you succeed in that class. And beyond the academic demand, students can also find support in many other areas in experiencing their transition. So we have the Center for New Students, which coordinates transition programs like Orientation Week, career services to help you with resumes, cover letters, and interviewing skills, the Counseling and Student Development Center, our multi-faith resource team, student health services with doctors and a walk-in clinic right here on campus, and our student accessibility services. This is one of the best known and respected of its kind in Canada, and they're looking to support students who identify with either a permanent or a temporary disability. Also Blind Date with a Book, SAM, the Student Athlete Mentorship Program, and Take a Pause, which involves cuddling with adorable therapy dogs on campus and library. They're all different programs put in place to help you with not only your physical, but mental and spiritual well-being. We also completed a recent renovation to our wellness building a few years ago. And as someone who's a huge advocate for checking in with your mental health, we have the counselors on campus who are there to get you through those tough times, personally, academically, or just there to provide a listening ear too. Solveig, as someone who came across the country for school, you didn't have the luxury of going home on weekends like some of the other students. Can you share how the UFG supported your journey before stepping foot on campus and how they continued to support your journey when you were here on campus? And then any tips for any students tuning in today about moving away from home?
Right. I think the biggest way that the University of Guelph supported me before I came onto campus was just providing tons of information about what was offered to me as a student, and especially as somebody who was planning on living on campus. There are so many programs, like you mentioned, available to help students with mental health, physical health. There's a clinic on campus if you get sick and you need to see a doctor. And there's so many clubs to facilitate like social engagement. So I knew all of that coming in to going to the University of Guelph, but I also received lots of advice on like what to pack to live in residence and what living in residence would be like, who would be around me, whether how the safety in residences was kept and who the RAs would be. Those are residence assistants, so they're like upper year students that live with you and help make sure that you're doing all right and facilitate social engagement in the residences. On campus, the biggest thing that I found moving away from home, because I only came back to the island for the holidays in the winter and for some summers, the biggest thing that I found that helped me was my friends. Like in my first year, I didn't come back to see my family over Thanksgiving. And that's the first major holiday in the first semester. And I think I had something like 12 different invitations to spend Thanksgiving with friends' families. And I ended up going up to Northern Ontario and spending it on a friend's farm. So the living in residence and being able to make friends through clubs and through activities and just living with each other really helps with that feeling of homesickness, which is bound to happen. My biggest tip for students is, I have two tips. The first one is to take advantage of the supports that are there. Like go to the academic supports at the library, even if you think that you don't need it. The amount of advice and help that is available is really astounding. And the second tip is to bring things with you that will remind you of home. So if there's like certain foods that you know you won't be able to get in Ontario, pack some of it in your luggage for when you're feeling lonely, or bring some like knickknacks from your home so that you don't feel like you're totally alone in Ontario.
Yeah, those are some awesome tips. And not only did you move to the city of Guelph for school, but you were hired as a research assistant in Germany for summer by a Guelph professor. Can you share how that opportunity came about, how that transition was in traveling to Germany for a summer to work?
Yeah, that was a really amazing experience, and it came about very suddenly after, it was in between my third and fourth years at the University of Guelph. And at that point, I'd done a lot of work on campus, both like paid work and also volunteer work with student government and various clubs. And there was a professor who was involved with the Bachelor of Arts and Sciences program, which was the program that I was in, who I'd done both academic work and also work through student government with. And when this position came up through a program in Germany called Fiction Meets Science, it's a research project, he immediately thought of me and approached me to ask if I would be willing to go to Germany if he sent me there. And of course I said yes. So I spent 4 months in Europe. It was 3 months in Germany doing research at the University of Bremen. And what I was looking at was representations of scientific autonomy in works of fiction. So essentially I was sent to Germany to read novels for 3 months and talk about them with other people. And then I traveled around Europe for a month afterwards doing some backpacking. And I stayed with a couple who were retired professors in Germany. And they showed me all of the amazing things in their cities and took me around to the ports and to see where people would come if they were immigrating. And it was just a fantastic experience. And it really changed my whole view of what academia was and solidified why I wanted to go on to grad school. And I actually ended up writing a paper with one of the PhD students that I was working with, and it's going to be published in the spring, which I'm very excited about.
Amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
That's such an incredible opportunity, and sounds like one opportunity, even if like a small one, it kept continuing to other opportunities for you. And we do have all those opportunities like Solveig had to all of you that are coming in as a Griffin. So they can include international opportunities, field courses, internships, or certificates. So for example, in my last year as a Griffin, I traveled to Fiji where I was living with a host family. I helped to rebuild the local school, run fresh water, and facilitate nutritional workshops. And then similarly to Solveig, I then took advantage of being halfway across the world, and I went backpacking with two of my best friends through Australia and through New Zealand. And this is still one of my most memorable experiences to date. A lot of photos from that trip are still hanging in my house to this day. So Yeah, an amazing opportunity. And another form of experiential learning is through our cooperative education. So there is the option to apply from co-op right from high school, and you will begin in your first year with a co-op 1100 mandatory course online that'll help you prepare. And you will be then matched with a co-op coordinator, and they'll help you create a captivating cover letter. They'll teach you the ins and outs of interviewing and help you write your resume. And they will be by your side throughout your whole co-op journey here at Guelph. All co-ops are 3 to 5 terms. They're full-time and paid. My friend Andy, who's in hospitality and tourism management, she traveled to the West Coast to work with a hotel director, and she learned about hotel operations and consumer behavior. And in the past, some of our food science students got to taste test chocolate while they were working at the Nestle chocolate factory. And even one of our engineering students in biomedical engineering, they traveled to the Harvard Medical School in the USA, where they worked with an NBA player on perfecting his running gait. And just as important as the academic experience, it's the student life that we keep mentioning here at the University of Guelph. And students do have amazing opportunities to become part of the family and to get involved. I found it very easy in my first year as a Griffin to get involved as I lived on campus. So the library, my professors' offices, classes, and buildings, they're all only a 5 to 7 minute walk from the heart of campus. And you will be relieved to know that residence is guaranteed for all first-year students, provided that you pay the $750 deposit by the June 1st deadline, and provided that residences are open to full capacity next year. We are committed to protecting the health and the safety of our students, and we will be following the direction of our public health unit in determining those safe residence capacities. There are still many unknowns with COVID-19, but we will be keeping all future Griffins updated on our housing website. I personally lived in a double room in the North residences, as this really encouraged me to break out of my comfort bubble. I got to meet so many people on day one and people who I called friends right from day one. And you can select from a variety of different living styles and options. For example, we have academic clusters, so you can live with like-minded students who are in the same program as you. The best memories that I have from residence are having movie and game nights and heading to the grocery store weekly to stock up the little mini fridge that I had in my room with my roommate. And when I'm out speaking to students, I often get the question of which is the best residence to live in. And I can honestly say that whichever residence you get, it will be your favorite. For example, I know that Solveig lived in the South residences, right? Awesome. Yeah. So can you expand a little bit on maybe, did you choose South as your first in your application and what your experience was like living in South residences?
Sure. I really, like, going into my first year, I didn't mind which residence I lived in. I just knew that I wanted a single room, and that's different for everybody, but that was my personal preference. So I ended up being placed in South. I had a single room in a tower that was an academic cluster. So all the people living around me were in the same program as I was. And that was really important to me. I did ask for that because my program is so different. The Bachelor of Arts and Science program, everybody has a specialization in sciences and then one in arts or social sciences, but they can be completely different. So while I did neuroscience and public policy, some of my friends were doing French and mathematics. So it meant that we weren't always in the same classes together. So I really wanted that opportunity to get to know other students in the same program as me. I loved living in South Residence. It was a great opportunity to make friends, and especially coming from so far away, never having set foot on campus before my move-in day, living on campus and living in South Residence really helped me form a community of friends that have lasted still to this day. It also pushed me to get involved on campus where I might not have had I been living off campus, because we had a residence assistant who was in my program. We also had an upper year student who was like an academic guide, so she would organize study sessions and help us with any of our classes that we needed assistance with. And they were involved in the student government. So they were the ones that asked us if we wanted to volunteer, to join clubs with them. They would organize outings for us. So it really pushed me to just like dive right into my first year experience. The biggest thing about living on campus is that the University of Guelph is such a close-knit community, so you really get to know the campus, and you get to know the other students that you're going to be working with for the next 4 years or more. So if you're able to, I know COVID-19 has kind of put a wrench in everybody's plans, but if the residences are open next year, I definitely suggest going and living on campus. It's a brilliant thing.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And right now, given that tours are postponed for the meantime, we do have lots of great video resources online, so you can check those out on our website, and hopefully to give you a bit of a better idea of what our living styles are like and maybe what you would want to live in. And I like to think that I'm pretty efficient with packing, given that I traveled across the world for a few weeks and for 6 weeks and went backpacking, but I cannot imagine having to move across the country for school and for a few months at a time. So do you have any tips for future Griffins on packing, and maybe share some of those secrets?
Sure. Yeah, it was quite a journey. When I moved across the country, my family came with me to help me get settled in, and my brother is an athlete, so he was able to carry all the suitcases and everything. So I was fortunate in that regard. But I essentially fit everything that I wanted to bring from BC into 2 big suitcases. I didn't choose, you can send things across the country in boxes, that's totally possible, but I didn't choose to do that. So I really tapered it down to the clothes and the personal mementos that I wanted to fill my residence room with. And then most of the big stuff that I knew I would need when I was moving into residence, I bought when I got to Ontario. So things like pillows and sheets and blankets, winter clothes, which take up a lot of space. I bought all that in Ontario. It helped for me that I don't come from a very cold place. So like I didn't even own a pair of winter boots before moving to Guelph. But those are things that would have, like, had I brought a big winter coat, that takes up an entire suitcase on its own. So I chose to purchase all that when I got to Ontario. And moving into residence was actually a really smooth process, because on moving day, they have all sorts of student volunteers who will help you carry up your bags and help you find your room, because the buildings are massive and it can be very easy to get lost in your first week. So there's all sorts of people there to help you out when you get there. But yeah, the biggest thing is just take things that you know are going to make you feel comfortable. The university does typically send out a list of things that they know you'll need moving into residence, things like flip-flops for the showers, sheets for your bed. So they'll tell you all the things that you absolutely need. But otherwise, I chose to take things like my postcard collection, which I put up on the walls of my residence room, and things to make it feel a little bit more like home.
Yeah, and I guess just reiterating that the city of Guelph, we are about 130,000 people, so we're not a small city by any means. So we have those larger stores where you can get a lot of those things that you need for your room when you're here. And IKEA is only maybe a 40-minute drive, so that's definitely a great one-stop shop to get all that stuff too. And Solveig did mention that there is volunteers on move-in day to help out, but not only are they there to help you out, but they'll be cheering as you drive up. And it's such an exciting time. I still remember it to this day, and it just made me feel so warm and welcomed to the community. And one thing that I loved about campus is that all the best campus food was within a short walk of my residence room. So even after graduation and moving back home, I would still head back to Brass Taps or the Bullring for a good home cooked meal. And if anyone here has seen the show Friends, or maybe you've binged it in the last little while, the Bullring that we have on campus is a spitting image of Central Perk. So it has a retro vibe, some orange couches, and every Wednesday night, my friends and I would head there for live music. My go-to order was a cookie and a coffee, or a fresh cut wrap with French fries. And all dining halls on campus strive to be sustainable in all operations. We use fresh and local food from over 75 local farmers. And one of my favorite places to eat is at the Griffin Grill, which is pictured here right now. Not only can you eat on campus, but you can use your student card off campus at over 30 different locations. Some of my favorites were Montana's, Milestones, and Eastside Mario's. And the best part was that it was an easy tap and go in paying for a meal. I have to ask, Solveig, do you miss the campus food moving back home?
Yeah, of course I do.
Yeah.
I think the thing I miss most, though, is just the atmosphere on campus. Like you mentioned, the Bull Ring is such a cozy place, and now that we can't all go and huddle on couches together, looking back on that, it seems like such a precious thing.
Definitely. And what was your go-to meal on campus?
My go-to meal was probably the tofu wrap at the Bull Ring. So good.
So good. I also love Mongolian. That's another really great place to get a fresh stir fry. Definitely miss Mongolian. So clearly I could talk about food all day long, but alongside the dining halls, another place I spent a lot of my time was in the athletic center. And as a Griffin, you will wear the red, black, and gold colors loud and proud, and you can find the University of Guelph, the heart of the UFG, in our athletics program. With a recent renovation to our athletics building, you will have access to over 22,000 square feet of space. This includes 2 pools, 5 squash courts, 3 gyms, and even a rock climbing wall. You can even get caught up in your favorite Netflix show, as each of our cardio machines are equipped with Netflix. You can swing by to relax by the fireplace lounge, or you can refuel by grabbing a booster juice. A highlight of my time at the University of Guelph was playing on intramural teams. This introduced me to new people and gave me a bit of a brain break from studies. I remember trying bubble soccer for the first time. And although my memory is a little bit foggy as I spent a lot of the time just trying to stand on my 2 feet, nonetheless, it was so much fun. And if you are seeking extracurricular involvement, but you're more comfortable outside of the gym, we offer over 200 different clubs, such as Quidditch and Pre-Med. There are even groups for culture and religion, student media, and service groups. And if you don't see a club that you want to join, you can definitely start your own. Solveig, I know that you're involved on campus, very involved on campus, with many different jobs and student government and clubs. Can you share about the importance that you feel about getting involved outside of the classroom and how this helped to shape your time here at the U of G?
Sure. Yeah, as you said, I was very involved on campus. The biggest thing that I was involved in was student government. So I started out as one of the college representatives on the Bachelor of Arts and Sciences Student Association. I ended up being the president of that association and also the vice president of special events. And through that position, I also ran a major conference at the university for interdisciplinary students across Canada. So those are the ones that took up the most of my time. You know, they're elected positions. We have to run for them and campaign and do all of that. But they were also probably the most fun I had on campus, because I was working with like-minded students in the same program as I was. And we were really pushing to like create change in our programs and also to facilitate bonds with students in the program. So we would host, you know, monthly trivia nights at the Brass Taps, which is a bar on campus, restaurant and bar. We would host evenings where we would invite alumni to come and speak about their journeys and what they were doing after graduating. We would have academic sessions. So it was really this great venue for us to look at what we wanted to see on campus and make that happen, because the university gave us a budget to do that every year. So we had money to be able to like give away free nachos to students and all that kind of stuff. And that was really because I was so involved on campus. I got to know the staff at the university. I got to know my professors on a much deeper level, and it enabled me to see what there was available for me to do on campus. So through my volunteer work, I was able to do independent study and research project with professors that I formed working relationships with through those clubs. And those were the experiences that really set me up for where I am today. Aside from those, I was involved in a lot of like more fun, casual events and clubs on campus. I was a part of the horticulture club, so every week I would go to the greenhouse with friends, and we'd plant succulents or create like dioramas out of peat moss and things like that. And I also did lots of intramurals. I also tried bubble soccer and had an absolute blast. I was terrible at it. I'm not a sporty person
Me
at
too.
all. But, it's definitely worthwhile, and it's a lot of fun to like form a team with a bunch of your friends and compete for fun once a week. Getting involved on campus is really like the biggest thing that I tell students going into university, because your 4 years or however long you spend at university, you really should make the most of that. And it's not all about the academics. And oftentimes getting involved on campus and making friends in your program or in different programs than yours, that's what really enables you to be successful in your academics and in your work, and gives you experience to be able to go on and find a career that you really love after you graduate.
Yeah, that's great. I know that you're currently in graduate school. So can you maybe share how getting involved on campus helps support where you are now?
Yeah, so I'm currently in my second year of my master's degree in history of medicine. And as you might have noticed when I mentioned at the beginning, I didn't do an undergrad degree in history. So I had a bit of a winding path to finding where I am now. And it was really through getting involved on campus that I found what I really love to do, because I was doing research. So I studied neuroscience and criminal justice and public policy while at Guelph. And I loved what I was doing, but what I really wanted to do was talk about science with people, and to learn about like why science is important and why we trust it and how do we communicate it. So through my involvement with student clubs, sorry, my video turned off. Through my involvement with student government, I met a professor who was in the history department, and she offered to do an independent study with me. So I sat down every week with her one-on-one, and we talked about science in 18th century France, 18th and 19th century France. And I just absolutely loved that experience. And it was that research project that then led me to go and do research in Germany, and led me to do an honors thesis in history of science. And then I applied to graduate programs in history. And I couldn't see myself doing anything else. I get to spend all day, every day looking at medieval manuscripts and textbooks from the 1600s talking about surgery and things. It's absolutely a blast. But the University of Guelph was really where I figured out that that was what I wanted to do, because when I started my undergrad degree, I originally thought I wanted to go to med school, and then I thought maybe law school, and it took me a long time to figure that out. And the University of Guelph gave me this wonderful arena to be able to try a whole bunch of different classes and meet a whole bunch of different students and professors who were all doing different things. And through that, I was able to learn about the field of history of science, which was something I didn't even know existed when I went into my undergrad degree.
That's amazing. And same here too. The University of Guelph gave me those resources to check out different areas of interest. And I did pursue something in my field right after graduating, but then shortly just recognized my love for advising and counseling. And then, as I mentioned, I came back here shortly after. Now I absolutely love what I'm doing, and that's speaking to all of you. So as we do wrap up this webinar, some final thoughts I do want to leave you with today. As you are going through the process of discovering which university is the best one for you, I encourage you all to research and to ask questions so you are well informed of all of your different options. And I must give you all a shout out to all of you that are tuning in today, as you are completing the first step in discovering how the UFG will support you in your journey to becoming a future Griffin. And Solveig, any last piece of advice for all future Griffins listening in today?
Yeah, I mean, I already gave my biggest piece of advice, which is to get involved on campus and find things that you really love to do. My second biggest piece of advice is leading up to getting involved on campus. I think it's really important to pick a university based not only on the academics. Well, the academics are super important and you should be going someplace that's going to challenge you and support you and has a program that you're interested in. You also want a place that you're going to love to live in and a place where you think you're going to find your community. And for me, that was the University of Guelph for sure. But there are ways that you can, come to webinars like this and see if you get a feel for what the university is like outside of the classroom, because that's really what's going to make or break the 4 years that you're going to spend there.
That's great. And definitely speaking from experience, your time at university will fly by in the blink of an eye. I still remember my very first day of walking on the U of G campus. My parents were with me. I then said goodbye to them. I was then in my residence room and I organized just a few things in my room and I was sitting there alone. And then I heard a tap at the door and found 4 of my floor mates standing there asking if I wanted to get ice cream. And I didn't know it at the time, but over the next 4 years, we would share all of our secrets together, laugh until we cried, and I met the most amazing group of young women on that day. And flash forward to graduation day, where we crossed the graduation stage together. We celebrated with more laughs and cries, although the day for us wasn't a goodbye, but a see you later. And we are spread across North America, but we still stay in touch every single day. If there is one thing I want you to take from this presentation today, it is that the U of G will support you in whatever path you do choose to take. So keep talking those essays, those exams, and just know that your fellow Griffins are here cheering you on. And I hope that today for us, it isn't a goodbye, but a see you soon, and hopefully it's on campus next year. So I do encourage you all to visit us virtually to register for our upcoming Fall Preview Day, where you can learn more about each of our degree programs and to check out our webinar series. You can also book a one-on-one meeting with me. So thank you all so much for tuning in, and that is the presentation portion of our afternoon. And Solveig, again, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join us for this webinar. We will now open it up to any questions, and I will invite Jessie, who's been tackling all of your questions behind the scenes, to come on camera and introduce yourself. Thanks, Jessie.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining in the webinar. As Lauren said, I was answering some of the questions behind the scenes. I also work in recruitment as the liaison officer for secondary school recruitment. I was in Lauren's portfolio the past few months, and it's been great connecting with all future Griffins over this interesting recruitment cycle. But as Lauren mentioned, we are here to support you, and I hope you found this webinar helpful, and really the conversation will continue after today. So definitely encourage you to check out the website and see all the upcoming events that we have so you can get to know a little bit more about the University of Guelph. So Lauren, I'll send the first question over to you. Someone's just asking about when they have to apply by.
Yeah, that's a great question. So to start the bigger picture, we do have 3 rounds of offers. With that said, we encourage all students to apply for early consideration, and that deadline is January 15th, 2021. So you do apply through OUAC. I would recommend connecting with your guidance counselor about your transcripts. And then if you have any questions, you can definitely email me. However, 3 rounds of offers, apply by January 15 for early consideration. And then just note in the 3rd round of offers, we take into consideration something called the student profile form. So the SPF, it is accessible on our website, the form that you download. And this is really your chance to let us know about non-academic factors that may have affected your grades. So whether it's getting involved outside the classroom, like volunteering, or even just like maybe at a part-time job, you can let us know about all of that in the SPF. And you can find more about our admission plan on our website. And also, if you're interested, definitely check out the webinar series that I will be hosting, different webinars specific to different regions in Canada. And I'll touch more specifics on admissions there too.
Perfect. Thanks, Lauren. And we know it's a lot of information to take in. So as Lauren mentioned, booking a one-on-one meeting, attending the open house days, just there's lots of different essentially like different styles of way to learn more about the information. Maybe you would prefer to just read our website. Maybe you want a copy of our review book. So lots of different resources that you can access. So there's a question here for you. Someone's just wondering what you did in the summer months. Did you go back home? Did you stay in Guelph? Did you travel?
Yeah, so I already talked about that a little bit with my time in Germany. So that took up a whole summer. I spent that summer researching at the University of Bremen and then traveling around Europe, backpacking by myself. The rest of the summers, I typically came back to Vancouver Island to be with my family because I only saw them once or twice a year. So that was really important to me. And I worked here while I was visiting with my family. So there are so many student jobs all across Canada that are available to university students. And they're really, really easy to find. Like you can look for them on Indeed. So I worked at a variety of places, usually nonprofits. But one of my favorite jobs is I worked at a social enterprise bookstore. So essentially a used bookstore that the sale of the books went towards providing free literacy programs towards adults. So I got to work with refugees coming and learning English, and work with collectors who were looking for rare books, and it was really just right up my alley. So there's lots of things to do in the summer, whether you choose to stay in Guelph or not.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Solveig. And Lauren, there's a question here for you. Someone's asking if they apply before the early date in January, when will they know if they have been accepted?
Yeah, that's a great question. So again, we encourage all of you to apply for early consideration. You might hear in the first round, second, or the third. It could vary. And the third round goes up until the end of May. So with that said, we just recommend that you continue to check your web advisor account for status, and also OUAC. You can check for status of your application on there. The earliest that you will find out is early February, mid-February. So that's pretty much around the time when first round of offers will be sent out.
Yeah, and in terms of how you'll find out as well too, I actually still have my congratulations package that I received back in, oh my gosh, 2013, I guess, was when I started at the university. So you will also receive a package in the mail too. So it's snail mail, but it's super exciting just to get that package in the mail. There's another question here, Lauren, about residence. So about the residence guarantee and maybe how COVID will impact that potentially.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, there are still a lot of unknowns with COVID-19. As of right now, residence is still guaranteed for all first-year students. Just make sure you pay the $750 deposit by the June 1st deadline, and also provided that residences are open to full capacity. This fall, for example, residence is not open to full capacity just based on making sure that students are in a safe distance away from one another. We are really super determined to make sure that residence is a place where you can be safe and healthy. And so we will continue to follow the direction of our public health unit in determining what those numbers look like for next year. So what I can say for right now is to just continue checking our housing website for more information. And when we know information, we will be sure to let you know about that.
Perfect. And Solveig, I'll send this question your way. Someone's asking, how do I decide which residence I would like? And I can guarantee you got this question a lot as a tour guide. So maybe could you speak to all the different styles that we have and maybe just advice that you give to students when they're looking at which residence they might be interested in?
Sure. There are so many different styles on campus for you to choose from, everywhere from like single, double, and triple rooms to suite style residences where you live in like a single or a double room and then share a living space with a bunch of other students. So you'd have like a kitchen and a living room in that style of residence. Really my advice to you is to think about how you want to live for the next year. So for me, the most important thing was that I wanted to be in the academic cluster, so that I would have academic support around me, and also so that I could get to know other students in my program, and that I wanted to have a single room just because that was my personal preference. But I know lots of other people like you, Lauren, really wanted to have double rooms so that right off the bat they had a friend living with them, and it's a way to like encourage you to get out there and take part in events and meet new people because you already have that person that you can do that with. I really suggest just going online to the Guelph website. There's lots of different like diagrams of what the rooms look like, and it'll tell you how big they are and what they look like in the different residences, because a double room in one residence might not look identical to a double room in another residence. So I'd suggest first doing that and looking and seeing what all the options are. And then thinking about what the most important thing to you is. Like, is being in a cluster the most important thing? Is the size of your room the most important thing? Or is the location on campus the most important thing? Because if you're somebody that decides that you really want to live in South Residence or Johnston Hall, for example, but you don't really care what kind of room you're in, then that might be something that you indicate on when you're filling out the residence form as being most important. But if you're somebody like me, where you really don't care where on campus you live, but you know that you want a single room or you want to be in a certain cluster, then that would be the thing that you would prioritize on your residence form, because it's not guaranteed that you're going to get exactly the room that you want, but it is probable that you will get like one of the criteria that you really indicate on your form.
Perfect, thanks. And I think too, what's important for students when they're looking at residence rooms is also to remember that you really don't spend a lot of time in residence. You're at class, you're in a lecture hall, maybe you're going to the athletic center, you're working on campus, you're at the library. So you really don't spend that much time in residence. And it always sounds like a cheesy line, but it is really true. It's more about the people that you meet in residence and the people that you surround yourself with. That's what's going to make your residence the best one. It's not necessarily going to be the exact building that you're in. So that's always a piece of advice I like to share with students as well. And Lauren, just as we're wrapping up here, maybe do you just want to remind students about the upcoming webinars? I know you talked about it a little bit earlier on the presentation, but if people have more questions after today, how can they learn more about maybe applying from the specific province that they're in?
Yeah, definitely. So I am hosting a few different webinars specific to different provinces and areas in Canada. So what I recommend you do is go to our admissions website and then our events page, and there's listed where all of our webinars are outlined. And also too, how you can book a one-on-one meeting with me. That's where you will find that. You'll just have to register for the webinars. But with that said, there's a lot of really good information about like specific degree programs in those webinars. And going forward, also just to plug Fall Preview Day, where we will have campus partners supporting us with explaining what the degree that they support is all about and what you can expect in that degree program. And also each of our student services will be there too. So many different ways to get involved. And I just want to thank you all for joining the webinar today. Definitely, this is the first step in researching. And if you have any additional questions, you can always email me directly. So dietricl@uoguelph.ca, and I can answer your question from there. But I hope to see you soon in all of our future webinars. And thanks again so much, Solveig and Jesse, for supporting.